Welcome to 2026. The confetti hasn't even hit the ground and the managers have already been summoned. We've found 56 people who seriously tried to return the new year for a full refund. I'm talking one-star reviews because the fireworks were aggressively colorful, the snow was unprofessionally cold, and the gym treadmills were moving too fast. The delusion is absolutely unhinged. Stick around, because you have to see these to believe them. Let's dive into the madness. 1. A furious woman called the police on her neighbor immediately after midnight. She stood on her porch wearing tactical night vision goggles. She screamed that the fireworks were chemically enhanced to emit illegal brightness. She told the officer her delicate retinas were scorched and her vision was ruined. The officer explained that fireworks are supposed to be bright. The woman demanded the neighbor pay for her ophthalmologist bills. She insisted he sign a contract to only use grayscale sparklers next year. She claimed the neon sky assaulted her personal airspace. The officer simply rolled up his window and drove away. 2. A frantic dog mom marched down her street at 1 in the morning, holding a clipboard. Her tiny Pomeranian had whimpered once during the midnight countdown cheers. The woman decided this was severe emotional trauma, requiring professional intervention. She knocked on every door demanding $200 cash for canine cognitive behavioral therapy. She told a confused teenager that his Happy New Year shout caused her dog existential dread. The woman threatened to sue the association for allowing noise above a whisper. She claimed her dog now had PTSD and refused to eat organic treats. The neighbors simply turned off their porch lights and pretended not to be home. 3. A sophisticated woman marched into the liquor store on New Year's Day holding an empty bottle. She slammed the glass on the counter. She told the manager the champagne was a flat betrayal to her toast. She claimed the bubbles were lazy and did not tickle her nose properly during the countdown. The manager noted the bottle was completely drained. The woman insisted she had to drink it all to be sure of the defect. She demanded a full refund plus interest for emotional dryness. She shouted that her midnight kiss was ruined because the fizz was lackluster. The manager simply banned her from the wine aisle forever. 4. A dissatisfied Karen called the television network complaint line at 12:10. She screamed that the Times Square ball drop was an underwhelming spectacle. She claimed she counted the sparkles and they were under the legal limit. She told the intern on the phone that her year started with a visual deficit. The woman demanded they redo the entire event immediately. She wanted the mayor to drop the ball again with triple the glitter. She threatened to sue the city for ruining her aesthetic experience. The intern asked if she was serious. The woman hung up to write a letter to the governor about light pollution failure. 5. A fitness-obsessed woman stood in the middle of the gym floor screaming at a teenager. The girl was walking slowly on the treadmill. The woman claimed this was an invasion of her personal workout territory. She told the front desk that veterans deserve priority passes over resolution tourists. She demanded the staff evict anyone wearing brand new sneakers. She insisted that the air was too crowded with amateur sweat. The woman tried to unplug the treadmill while the teen was still moving. The manager threatened to cancel her membership. The woman stormed out claiming her glutes were stolen by casuals. 6. A determined mother fell to her knees in the stationery aisle of a superstore. The shelf for resolution journals was completely empty. She accused the stock boy of a conspiracy against self-improvers. She claimed the store wanted her to fail her goals. She demanded they print a new shipment in the back room immediately. The boy explained they were sold out nationwide. The woman refused to believe him and checked inside a microwave box. She screamed that her potential was being sabotaged by poor inventory management. She left a sticky note on the floor vowing to write her memoir elsewhere. 7. A furious passenger locked herself inside a yellow taxicab. She refused to unlock the doors until the driver lowered the fare. She claimed the New Year surcharge was literal highway robbery. She told the driver that holiday extortion was not in her budget. The meter showed a high price due to demand. The woman insisted she should pay regular Tuesday morning rates. She pulled out a calculator to show him the math of fairness. The driver threatened to drive her back to the party. She screamed that he was holding her wallet hostage. A police officer eventually had to open the door. 8. An entitled wife slammed her diamond ring on the hotel reception desk. The clerk apologized that her specific suite was overbooked. The woman declared this incompetence a crime against hospitality. She demanded the hotel compensate her with the owner's personal penthouse immediately. She claimed she was allergic to standard rooms. She shouted that sleeping in a regular king bed would ruin her social status. The clerk offered a voucher for breakfast. The woman threw the voucher into the fountain. She insisted they evict the current penthouse guests. Security had to escort the screaming woman to a nearby motel instead. 9. A frequent flyer blocked the boarding gate with her expensive designer luggage. The flight was delayed due to a massive snowstorm. The woman screamed that the weather was stealing her precious time. She demanded the airline open a fast-track lane for loyal flyers only. She claimed she could fly the plane better than the pilots. The gate agent explained that ice is dangerous. The woman insisted her status card should melt the ice on the wings. She tried to push past the crew to sit in the cockpit. The federal marshals arrived to explain the concept of a no-fly list. 10. A hungry guest stood on a chair at a crowded house party. She announced that the lack of vegan sliders was a hate crime. She told the host that dietary discrimination was illegal in her world. She demanded the host cook a plant-based menu immediately. The host pointed to the vegetable platter on the table. The woman swatted the carrots away in disgust. She claimed she needed hot food to sustain her party energy. She threatened to sue the host for starving her intentionally. She called a pizza delivery place to complain about the party. The other guests just turned up the music. 11. A grumpy woman called her internet service provider at 8 in the morning. She screamed that her feed was polluted with annoying positivity. She claimed the resolution posts were harassing her cynical vibe. She demanded the technician install a global filter to block all motivational quotes. The representative explained they control the connection, not the content. The woman insisted he press the delete button on the internet. She threatened to sue the company for emotional distress caused by gym selfies. She shouted that seeing happy people was a violation of her service contract. The employee put her on hold and never came back. 12. An older aunt stopped the family dinner before the appetizers were served. She pulled out a tape measure to check the chair height. She accused her sister of seating favoritism. She claimed her chair was 2 inches further from the roast beef than her niece's. She demanded they reassign every seat based on strict seniority rules. She shouted that her age entitled her to the most comfortable cushion. The host tried to swap plates. The aunt refused and sat on the table itself. She insisted that respect was more important than gravy. The family quietly moved the table into the other room. 13. A furious woman drove to the local news station parking lot. She held a snowball in her gloved hand as evidence. She screamed at the security guard that the weather app predicted rain. She claimed the snow ruined her suede boots and her trust in science. She demanded to speak to the meteorologist immediately. She insisted he pay for her shoe cleaning bill. She shouted that false forecasting was a federal crime. The guard told her to go home. The woman threw the snowball at the station logo. She threatened to sue the clouds for breach of contract. The guard simply locked the gate. 14. An exhausted woman stormed into the electronics store on New Year's Day. She slammed her smartwatch on the glass counter. She told the Genius Bar that the device failed to track her midnight dance steps. She claimed she lost credit for burning 200 calories. She demanded a brand new model and a written apology. The clerk checked the logs and saw the battery was dead. The woman insisted the watch should run on her personal energy. She shouted that technology was conspiring to make her look lazy. She refused to leave until they manually added the steps. The clerk called security. 15. A paranoid neighbor stood in her backyard holding a garden hose. She aimed the nozzle at a small toy drone hovering above. She screamed that the device was stealing her party secrets. She claimed the teenage pilot next door was a spy for the tabloids. She demanded the government ground all hobby drones immediately. The boy shouted he was just filming his own roof. The woman refused to listen and sprayed water into the air. She insisted her potato salad recipe was classified information. She threatened to confiscate the remote control. The drone flew away and she sprayed her own guests. 16. A graphic design enthusiast emailed the app developer 20 times in 1 hour. She claimed the font on the 2026 calendar was an aesthetic offense. She told the support team that the serif typeface caused her migraines. She demanded they redesign the entire interface for elegance immediately. The developer replied that users can change the settings. The woman insisted the default setting was a personal insult to her taste. She shouted at her screen that ugly dates lead to ugly years. She threatened to launch a rival app called Beautiful Days. The developer blocked her email address for harassment. 17. A trembling woman banged on the pharmacy shutters before they opened. She held a box of quit smoking patches like a weapon. She screamed that the expiration date was from last month. She claimed the pharmacist was sabotaging her health resolution on purpose. She demanded fresh stock and free counseling sessions as compensation. The pharmacist explained the patches were still safe to use. The woman insisted that expired adhesive would inject toxins into her soul. She shouted that he was working for Big Tobacco. She threatened to chain herself to the counter. The pharmacist handed her a lollipop to make her leave. 18. An impatient shopper cut to the front of a massive sale line. She told the exhausted cashier that waiting was for common people. She claimed her time was worth more than the discount. She demanded a VIP shortcut for frequent spenders immediately. The manager pointed to the end of the line. The woman insisted she was a local influencer with 10 followers. She shouted that inefficiency was a disease and she was the cure. She tried to scan her own items. The crowd booed her loudly. She threatened to buy the store and fire everyone. The security guard escorted her out. 19. A hysterical hostess called the party supply store emergency number. She screamed that the confetti cannon misfired inside her living room. She claimed the glitter was a messy hazard to her carpet. She demanded they send a professional cleaning crew within the hour. The representative explained they only sell the products. The woman insisted they ban all celebratory explosives nationwide. She shouted that she was drowning in colorful paper squares. She threatened to dump the trash bags of confetti at their headquarters. She claimed her vacuum cleaner died from exhaustion. The representative hung up while she was still screaming. 20. A confused woman marched into her gym's management office. She showed them her fitness app notification screen. She screamed that her tracker congratulated a stranger named Bob. She claimed this data mix-up was identity theft. She demanded they personalize the algorithm or delete the internet. The manager explained it was a social community feature. The woman insisted she did not want to cheer for Bob's cardio. She shouted that her support was exclusive and expensive. She threatened to sue Bob for stealing her digital applause. The manager showed her how to disable notifications. She refused and threw the tracker in the trash. 21. A hungry woman banged on the locked glass doors of the bistro. The host explained the reservation was canceled due to a pipe burst. She screamed that betrayal tastes like empty stomachs. She demanded lifetime free meals as penance for this inconvenience. She claimed her hunger was legally actionable in this state. She insisted they cook for her on the sidewalk using camping gear. She shouted that her New Year tradition was more important than plumbing. The manager offered a gift card. She ripped it up and ate the pieces. She threatened to chain herself to the menu stand. The police arrived to explain trespassing laws. 22. A superstitious woman called the magazine editor at dawn. She screamed that her horoscope predicted financial challenges for the year. She claimed this negative vibe was a curse placed by the writer. She demanded they reprint the entire issue with a positive fortune. She insisted the universe listens to print media. She shouted that she refused to accept a year of bad luck. She threatened to hex the printing press if they did not comply. The editor explained the stars are not employees. The woman hissed into the phone. She vowed to sue the zodiac signs for emotional distress. The editor simply blocked her number. 23. A groggy woman ran out into the snow in her bathrobe. She stood in front of a massive snowplow truck. She screamed that the scraping noise woke her up too early. She claimed premature disturbance was a violation of her beauty sleep. She demanded the city schedule plowing for late afternoons only. She insisted. The snow could wait until she had her coffee. She shouted that the driver was selfish for clearing the roads. The driver honked the horn to move her. She threw her slipper at the windshield. She threatened to sue the mayor for noise pollution. The truck simply drove around her. 24. A digital party host typed furiously into the support chat box. The virtual meeting app had crashed right at midnight. She screamed at her webcam that this was a digital disaster. She claimed her guests were stuck in the lobby of buffering doom. She demanded full refunds for every user in the country. She insisted the internet was broken because of their incompetence. She shouted that her virtual toast was ruined by pixelation. The bot replied with a standard error code. The woman tried to shake her laptop to fix it. She threatened to build her own internet. The screen remained black. 25. A furious shopper returned to the boutique on January 2nd. She wore a dress that was clearly too tight. She screamed that the sizing chart was a deliberate scam. She claimed the fabric shrank the moment she looked at it. She demanded the store tailor it free of charge immediately. She insisted her body measurements were constant and perfect. She shouted that the zipper was defective because it refused to close. The clerk suggested a larger size. The woman threw a mannequin arm at him. She threatened to report them to the fashion police. She ripped the dress trying to leave. 26. A coughing woman leaned over her backyard fence. She pointed a fan at her neighbor's patio heater. She screamed that the wood smoke was an air quality violation. She claimed her lungs were being assaulted by hickory particles. She demanded they switch to electric heating only from now on. She insisted the smell of campfire was low class. She shouted that she would call the EPA on their marshmallow roast. The neighbor offered her a s'more. The woman slapped it out of his hand. She threatened to install a giant vacuum on the property line. The neighbors just added another log. 27. An angry viewer called the local television station newsroom. She screamed that the New Year baby segment lacked sufficient diversity. She claimed showing only one baby was a representation failure. She demanded they recap the segment with 12 different babies. She insisted that inclusion starts in the maternity ward. She shouted that the chosen baby was not cute enough to represent the city. The producer explained they just filmed the first one born. The woman refused to accept biology as an excuse. She threatened to protest outside the nursery. The producer hung up the phone. She wrote a blog post instead. 28. A sober curiosity advocate stormed into the trendy bar. She slammed her glass of non-alcoholic fluid down. She screamed that the mocktail tasted like artificial lies. She claimed the flavor fraud was insulting to her palate. She demanded natural ingredients be made, mandatory by law. She insisted the bartender squeeze the fruit with his bare hands. She shouted that she could taste the preservatives in the syrup. The bartender explained it was just juice and soda. The woman accused him of poisoning her resolution. She threatened to citizen arrest the mixologist. She poured the drink into a potted plant. 29. A suspicious traveler sat in the agency office with crossed arms. She screamed that the agent was upselling unnecessary insurance. She claimed she was immortal and did not need coverage. She demanded they waive all add-ons and give her the commission. She insisted that pushy sales tactics were a form of harassment. She shouted that if the plane crashed, she would handle it herself. The agent explained the policy covered lost bags. The woman refused to listen to logic. She threatened to fly the plane herself to save money. The agent asked her to leave. She took all the free mints. 30. A disappointed party guest marched up to the DJ booth. She pulled the headphones off the DJ's head. She screamed that the playlist had skipped her favorite song twice. She claimed this musical neglect was ruining the vibe. She demanded he curate the next hour based solely on her requests. She insisted that her taste was superior to the crowd. She shouted that nobody wanted to hear techno during a celebration. The DJ pointed to the packed dance floor. The woman tried to scratch the record with her fingernail. She threatened to sing the song herself. Security carried her out. 31. A vigilant woman marched up to the pyrotechnics crew in the park. She shined a flashlight into the lead technician's face. She screamed that the fireworks permit was not visibly posted on the fence. She claimed the entire display was an illegal operation. She demanded he produce the paperwork or stop the show immediately. She insisted that safety regulations required a font size of 40. She shouted that she would issue a citizen's fine for non-display. The technician pointed to the giant banner behind her. The woman refused to turn around. She threatened to call the fire marshal on speed dial. The first rocket launched, and she ducked for cover. 32. A devastated influencer stormed into the phone carrier store on New Year's Day. She held up her dead device like a tragic victim. She screamed that the battery died exactly during the countdown live stream. She claimed this was a calculated power conspiracy to ruin her engagement. She demanded they extend her warranty for emotional damages. She insisted the phone should have known it was a holiday. She shouted that her followers thought she had perished at midnight. The clerk checked the settings and saw 50 open apps. The woman accused him of victim blaming. She threatened to switch to a pager. She threw the charger cable at the display case. 33. A stressed woman emailed the developer of a meditation app at 2 in the morning. She used all capital letters in the subject line. She screamed that an advertisement interrupted her finding inner peace. She claimed the intrusive marketing shattered her chakras. She demanded they give her the ad-free version for premium users immediately. She insisted that selling products during a silence session was spiritual violence. She shouted that the narrator's voice was now tainted by capitalism. The developer replied that she was on the free trial. The woman refused to pay a cent. She threatened to hex their servers with bad vibes. She deleted the app and screamed into a pillow. 34. A furious health nut blocked the produce aisle with her cart. She pointed an accusatory finger at the empty green crate. She screamed that the store ran out of organic kale for her diet. She claimed this supply shortage was a direct attack on her longevity. She demanded they implement priority stocking for health nuts only. She insisted the manager grow some in the back room right now. She shouted that iceberg lettuce was poison to her system. The stock boy offered her spinach instead. The woman slapped the bag out of his hand. She threatened to eat the decorative plants in the lobby. She laid on the floor until kale arrived. 35. A vain mother gathered her entire extended family in the living room. She projected the group photo onto the wall. She screamed that the image was unflattering to her specifically. She claimed her sister blinked on purpose to commit pose sabotage. She demanded everyone put their formal clothes back on for professional retakes. She insisted they hire a lighting crew this time. She shouted that her double chin was a trick of the lens. The grandmother refused to get up from the sofa. The woman accused her of ruining the family legacy. She threatened to Photoshop everyone else's faces out. The family walked out and left her with the camera. 36. A crafty woman slammed a half-finished poster board on the craft store counter. She showed the cashier that the glitter was flaking off. She screamed that the vision board supplies were low quality. She claimed her future success was compromised by weak glue. She demanded they upgrade the materials or provide a full refund. She insisted that a cheap board would manifest a cheap year. She shouted that the scissors were too dull to cut her dreams. The cashier explained she bought the budget brand. The woman threw a tube of paint on the floor. She threatened to glue herself to the entrance. Security had to peel her off the door frame. 37. A suspicious passenger tapped the driver on the shoulder aggressively. She held her phone map up to the plexiglass divider. She screamed that he took a longer route home from the party. She claimed this deviation was a route rip-off scheme. She demanded an immediate fare adjustment and a free ride next time. She insisted she knew the streets better than the satellite. She shouted that he was kidnapping her wallet. The driver explained the main road was closed for a parade. The woman refused to believe in parades. She threatened to jump out of the moving car. She gave him 1 star before the ride even ended. 38. An attention seeker stood up in the middle of the crowded stadium. She waved her arms frantically at the giant screen. She screamed that the New Year kiss cam had ignored her row. She claimed this spotlight snub was a personal rejection. She demanded equal camera time for her and her husband. She insisted the cameraman was discriminating against her outfit. She shouted that her kiss was award-winning material. The operator zoomed in on a couple eating nachos instead. The woman threw her popcorn at the camera lens. She threatened to sue the team for lack of romance. Her husband hid under his seat in shame. 39. A shivering woman cornered the event organizer near the portable toilets. Her teeth were chattering loudly. She screamed that the weather turned cold without warning. She claimed this temperature. Treason was poor planning. She demanded they erect heated tents within 5 minutes. She insisted he should have controlled the wind chill factor. She shouted that her goosebumps were a breach of contract. The organizer handed her a paper napkin. The woman set the napkin on fire for warmth. She threatened to freeze to death to make a point. She hugged a patio heater and refused to let go. The organizer walked away to find a blanket. 40. A tech-savvy homeowner called the customer support line at midnight. She screamed that her smart home lights did not sync with the ball drop. She claimed this automation error ruined the climax of her party. She demanded tech support fix the lag immediately. She insisted that her house looked stupid in regular white light. She shouted that she paid for a synchronized disco experience. The automated voice told her the office was closed. The woman ripped the smart hub out of the wall. She threatened to switch back to candles. She threw the bulb out the window. It shattered on the driveway in the dark. 41. A compulsive gambler screamed into his phone at the app support agent. He demanded they unlock his account immediately. He claimed the Quit Gambling app was blocking his destiny. He told the agent that betting on the exact second the ball drops is a tradition. He insisted that stopping him now was government overreach. He shouted that he had a feeling this was his lucky year. The agent explained he set the restriction himself yesterday. The man refused to accept responsibility for his past self. He threatened to sue the app for lost hypothetical millions. He threw his phone against the wall. The screen cracked, and he bet his friend it would still work. 42. A frantic shopper banged on the metal shutters of the mall. She checked her watch and saw it was 7 in the evening. She screamed that closing early on New Year's Eve was access denial. She claimed she had nothing to wear for the midnight countdown. She demanded the security guard reopen the entire building for her alone. She insisted that her fashion emergency was more important than their holiday. She shouted that the mall owners were trying to ruin her social life. The guard pointed to the posted hours. The woman tried to lift the metal gate with her bare hands. She broke a nail and called the police. 43. A grumpy driver slammed his fist on the steering wheel. He called the radio station hotline while stuck in traffic. He screamed that the New Year resolution podcast was too motivational. He claimed the host's overenthusiasm was giving him a headache. He demanded they tone it down to a miserable level immediately. He insisted that happy people were a danger to road safety. He shouted that nobody is actually that excited about kale smoothies. The producer tried to explain the show's format. The man refused to listen to reason. He threatened to drive into a bridge to escape the positivity. He ripped the radio knob off the dashboard. 44. A hysterical traveler climbed onto the baggage carousel at the airport. She rode it around in circles while screaming at the staff. She claimed the airline lost her luggage to ruin her getaway. She demanded they deliver her bags with cash compensation within the hour. She insisted her entire personality was packed inside that suitcase. She shouted that wearing the same clothes twice was a baggage blunder. The ground crew tried to get her down. The woman refused and kicked at the rubber flaps. She threatened to live on the conveyor belt until 2027. Security had to turn off the machine. She sat there in silence. 45. A disappointed hostess marched back into the party store on January 1st. She dumped a bag of broken plastic whistles on the counter. She screamed that the party favors were cheap and broke easily. She claimed the quality quibble ruined her guest's experience. She demanded premium replacements made of gold or silver. She insisted that a plastic kazoo should last a lifetime. She shouted that her reputation was shattered along with the toys. The clerk explained they cost 50 cents each. The woman refused to accept the economics of cheap plastic. She threatened to sue the factory in China. She blew a broken whistle in the clerk's face. 46. An overwhelmed man called his internet provider in a rage. He screamed that his email inbox was overflowing with promo spam. He claimed the digital clutter was a violation of his virtual property. He demanded the technician enforce a global opt-out immediately. He insisted that he never signed up for 2026 discount alerts. He shouted that deleting emails was manual labor he did not agree to. The representative explained how spam filters work. The man refused to click any buttons. He threatened to delete the entire internet if they did not stop. He claimed the spam was physically weighing down his computer. The line went dead. 47. A loyal bodybuilder threw his heavy gym bag at the front desk. He pointed at the sign offering a New Year promo. He screamed that excluding long-term members was a loyalty overlook. He demanded they apply the retroactive discount to his last 10 years. He insisted that his muscles built this gym's reputation. He shouted that new members were just tourists who did not deserve savings. The manager explained the offer was for new sign-ups only. The man refused to pay full price ever again. He threatened to bench press the receptionist. He flexed his biceps aggressively. The manager canceled his membership on the spot. 48. A gamer tore the headset off his face and threw it. He typed a furious review on the game store page. He screamed that the virtual reality party had lag. He claimed the immersion interruption caused him to miss the ball drop. He demanded high-speed upgrades for his brain immediately. He insisted that a millisecond of delay was a crime against gaming. He shouted that his avatar looked glitchy in the screenshots. The developer replied that his Wi-Fi was too slow. The gamer refused to upgrade his own router. He threatened to hack the game to destroy the virtual world. He sat in the dark alone. 49. A sleep-deprived woman stood on her lawn in her pajamas. She threw a rock at the solar lights next door. She screamed that the lights stayed on all night. She claimed the energy waste was keeping her awake. She demanded the neighbors install mandatory timers immediately. She insisted that the sun does not shine at night for a reason. She shouted that the glow was radioactive and dangerous. The neighbor came out to check the noise. The woman accused him of stealing the darkness. She threatened to cover his yard with a tarp. She tried to pull the lights out of the ground. The neighbor turned the sprinklers on. 50. A lazy organizer threw a leather planner at the bookstore clerk. She screamed that the pages inside were completely blank. She claimed this was an irony insult to her procrastination problem. She demanded a pre-filled edition with her life goals already written. She insisted that writing things down was too much work for January. She shouted that the book was mocking her empty schedule. The clerk explained that she has to write her own plans. The woman refused to do manual labor. She threatened to sue the publisher for writer's block. She grabbed a pen and scribbled on the counter instead. She stormed out without the book. 51. A bored woman called the city mayor on his private line at midnight. She screamed that the 2026 fireworks show reused old patterns from last year. She claimed this creativity crisis was an insult to her visual standards. She demanded they launch only original designs never seen by human eyes. She insisted that the red starburst was so 2025. She shouted that her taxes paid for innovation, not recycling. The mayor hung up the phone. The woman threatened to sue the sky for plagiarism. She lit a sparkler and claimed it was better art. She wrote a negative review on the city website. 52. A traditionalist daughter flipped the dining table over during the family feast. She screamed that the secret recipe for the New Year roast was altered. She claimed the lack of extra salt was tradition tampering. She demanded her mother revert to the original unhealthy formula immediately. She insisted that a low-sodium version was a betrayal of their ancestors. She shouted that her taste buds were confused and angry. The mother explained she just used less butter. The daughter refused to eat the lies. She threatened to excommunicate the chef. She ordered fast food and ate it on the kitchen floor alone. 53. A lonely man threw his remote control through his flat-screen television. He screamed that the streaming service buffered exactly during the countdown. He claimed this connection crime stole his transition into the new year. He demanded unlimited bandwidth and a time machine to fix the lag. He insisted that he was stuck in the past while everyone else moved forward. He shouted that the spinning loading circle was mocking his existence. The customer service bot asked him to unplug the router. The man refused to calm down. He threatened to cut the fiber optic cables outside. He sat in the dark crying. 54. A determined jogger limped into the athletic store on January 2nd. She held up a sneaker with a slightly loose lace. She screamed that her new resolution shoes had fatal defects. She claimed this footwear flop caused her to quit running immediately. She demanded an exchange with 3 extra pairs for her pain. She insisted that the shoe was designed to make her trip. She shouted that her athletic career was over before it began. The clerk offered to tie the lace for her. The woman refused the charity. She threatened to run barefoot in the store. She threw the shoe into the clearance bin. 55. A claustrophobic commuter pulled the emergency brake on the moving city bus. She screamed that the New Year Eve vehicle was criminally overcrowded. She claimed the capacity caper was a violation of her personal bubble. She demanded the city provide private shuttles for regular passengers like her. She insisted that rubbing elbows with strangers was a health hazard. She shouted that she paid $2 for luxury and space. The driver told her to get off if she was unhappy. The woman refused to move from the aisle. She threatened to drive the bus herself. The other passengers pushed her out the door. 56. An anxious guest pulled out a yellow tape measure on the dance floor. She screamed that social distancing at the party was not enforced strictly. She claimed the guideline gripe was a matter of life and death. She demanded the host issue cash fines to anyone standing too close. She insisted that the conga line was a biological weapon. She shouted that she could feel the breath of the person behind her. The host explained it was a hugging party. The woman refused to accept affection. She threatened to spray everyone with industrial disinfectant. She built a fort out of sofa cushions and hid inside. And there you have it. Apparently, the year 2026 wasn't authorized to start without speaking to a manager first. Who knew fireworks were too shiny or that champagne bubbles were too aggressive? If these absolute meltdowns made you feel better about your own sanity, smash that like button and subscribe for more chaos. Don't forget to turn on notifications, or I'm calling corporate. Tell me in the comments, what is the pettiest complaint you heard this New Year's? Let's roast them below. Thanks for watching, and good luck out there.